County Radio's news source. 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP, and BeaverCountyRadio.com. Here's Noah Haswell.
Good morning on this Tuesday, March 11th of 2025. We will have a complete Beaver County Radio weather forecast after we take this look at news. The New Brighton School District discussed roof leaks at their meeting Monday. Here's Beaver County Radio's Curtis Walsh with more.
Beaver County Radio asked the New Brighton School Board Monday at their meeting about a recent Facebook post that circulated showing multiple leaks in the locker area of the high school. Superintendent Dr. Joseph Greeno relayed that the district contacted roofers immediately after realizing there was an issue and also notified parents with an email. The leak started during the harsh winter weather last month. Greeno says the roof is still under warranty and work is set to take place once the roofers determine weather conditions are appropriate to do so. Currently, ceiling tiles have been removed in the bad spots and buckets are being used to catch the leaks. Also at the meeting, the district approved initial readings for policy changes regarding discrimination and harassment, as well as pregnant parenting and married students. The changes are being made to ensure that the district complies with recent mandates made by the White House. From New Brighton, this is Curtis Walsh reporting for Beaver County Radio News.
Pennsylvania State Police in Beaver report that a man from West Mifflin was charged after causing a single-vehicle crash in Hopewell Township on Sunday. At 2:39 p.m., 38-year-old Randall Knight was driving too fast on the left side of the Allegheny County line of I-376 West. Knight traveled off the road and hit a cable guide rail before stopping. Knight was given 3 citations and was charged for driving on roadways that were laned for traffic. Gas prices are 5 cents lower in western Pennsylvania this week at around $3.44 per gallon. That's according to AAA East Central's gas price report. The report states that at that week last year, the average price for gas in western Pennsylvania was about $3.63. The report also notes that the average price that you can expect for a gallon of unleaded gas here in Beaver County is about $3.60. Allegheny General Hospital hosted students from Avonworth High School on Monday to watch a cardiac procedure completed by an all-female surgical team. This was performed to honor International Women's Day, which was celebrated on Saturday, March 8th. The leader of the team was Dr. Candace Lee, and her team accomplished a coronary artery bypass graft procedure. The open-heart surgery observation program at the hospital helped the students from Avonworth to work towards careers in medicine. Acting U.S. Attorney Troy Ravetti announced Monday that a man from McKeesport pleaded guilty to a charge of possessing a firearm unlawfully. 49-year-old Richard L. Edwards Jr. had numerous rounds of ammunition as well as 4 firearms in his house on August 9, 2024. According to Ravetti, Edwards will remain in custody, and the law provides for 15 years in jail, a fine of $250,000, or both. Edwards will be sentenced on July 8, 2025. 3 of the 5 family members injured in a single-engine plane crash in Pennsylvania after the pilot reported an open door on the aircraft were sent to a burn center for treatment. TV station WGAL in Lancaster identified the pilot as Matt White and the 4 passengers injured in Sunday's crash as his family members, citing his aviation company. The plane was White's personal plane. No one was killed and no one on the ground was hurt in the crash after the plane took off for Springfield, Ohio. Federal investigators had no immediate comment on a cause, and officials haven't released the victims' conditions or identities.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
Sunny and breezy today. We'll see a high near 67. Partly cloudy tonight. We'll drop down to a low around 35. Mostly sunny tomorrow. Look for a high near 62 and a low around 42. Sunshine on Thursday. We'll reach a high near 67 and a low around 46. And rounding out the work week with more sunshine on Friday, we'll see a high near 72 and a low around 56. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
That's a look at the news for now. I'm Noah Haswell on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, also streaming live around the world at BeaverCountyRadio.com.
Are you ready? It's time to find out what is on the mind of Eddie Crow. It's something to crow about. on Beaver County Radio, 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP. Now, here's the host of the show, Eddie Crow.
There have been a few of these now, and I was thinking about it this morning. Every time Brandon has come in, I've learned both how the system works and how messed up seemingly sometimes the system is. Brandon Antinopoulos from Forward RX is my guest. This is on Facebook. If you want to post questions in the comment section, that's fine. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. It's nice to see you too. Good morning.
I know we've got a couple things that we're going to talk about, but I do want to start with something we were talking off the air.
Yes.
Every generation has one of those I remember whens, whether it's Kennedy or Pearl Harbor, whatever. Do you remember where you were 5 years ago today?
I do. I do.
you?
Yeah,
I knew
I've had two of those in my lifetime, I feel like.
What was the other one?
9/11.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, 9/11. And you're exactly right. You instantly flash back. Where were you when COVID was officially declared a pandemic? Because you're a medical professional. You got to pay attention.
Yeah, so I was working at the University of Pittsburgh School of Pharmacy. I was a senior program manager, but part of that, I'd also get a chance to teach pharmacy students within the class. So I remember it was Friday. It was the Friday before spring break.
Was anybody paying attention?
I was the only one like holding them up between getting on their flights to go have fun.
Oh, you were that guy.
But I had beach balls in class. You know, we tried to make it fun and entertaining if I got them there for the whole day.
Right.
You know, so that they were thinking about their schooling and not so much what was about to happen the next week.
Right.
I don't think anyone predicted what actually did happen the following week at that time. But I remember, and I even have a video on my phone from the class from that day.
You saved it.
Yeah. Wish them well. Everyone went on their spring breaks, and in the middle of that week, it's when all the news hit that there was a pandemic. And then shortly after that, it was students don't come back. And I think originally it was only like a week or two. Like it was kind of like a temporary thing.
Come back, don't breathe on anybody, but now get out. No, it was the don't come back yet, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. That was the planet. That was jobs. That was businesses.
Yeah. And then a few weeks into that, it just became more and more clear just how much of an impact I think this was going to have on everyday life. And eventually we were told, hey, got to start learning how to teach over Zoom and Microsoft Teams and all these things, and we did. And then I feel like I stayed at the university until I think it was July or August of 2020, and took a different role. But it was at least I think it was at least a year that they had taught pharmacy school kind of like entirely remotely.
As somebody teaching it, this is not something that if you get wrong, you get a lower grade. If you get this wrong, it can hurt somebody.
Oh, absolutely.
Was that more difficult to teach pharmacy, not hands-on?
In some cases, yes. Even in pharmacy beyond, I mean, I had a high school student that was job shadowing down at the pharmacy in New Brighton last week, and we were talking about all the things that pharmacists do, and now there's at least 20 things that you could do with a pharmacy degree that's beyond just working in a retail pharmacy, like where we probably think of most of the time when you hear pharmacists, working in a pharmacy.
Right. Go to the drugstore, see the pharmacist.
Yeah. Even in hospitals, but times now where in some hospitals, pharmacists may actually be on the units of the hospitals, rounding with the other physicians and teams, actually the ones giving all the dosing recommendations and kind of checking for drug interactions in the moment right then and there. And so there were some simulated classroom experiences for those students to be able to get, to be able to recommend a medication, kind of see the changes in the monitors and heart rates and things like that. So yeah, there was certainly a challenge for some of the things whenever it came to teaching. I think what I noticed actually, and I still notice this, and I think is just how well, I'll say this. I get impressed whenever someone comes through or has a rotation or experience at the pharmacy, and they just know how to engage in a conversation with
social skills,
with people. Yeah. And
bedside
again,
manner.
Yeah, and it's not something I think like every pharmacist has to have, but I think in a setting that that we have at Forward RX, we're an independent pharmacy in New Brighton. We've been open for close to a year now. Pharmacists have always been kind of heralded as the most accessible healthcare provider. You can go to, you used to be able to go to just about any town, find a pharmacy, walk in, talk to a pharmacist.
For most people, historically, the pharmacist is right up there with the doctor in terms of first interaction.
Yes.
Yeah. Just like, I don't want to call the doctor. I'll go get something at the pharmacy and I'll ask them.
Yeah. And at least assessing of whether like, hey, I have this going on. Okay, we have something over the counter we could give you that'll help that. Or assessing like, oh, no, this is beyond that. You either need to make an appointment with your doctor or you need to go to the doctor or the hospital.
You ever said out loud to somebody, "Ooh, I'm not touching that"?
I don't think so. I think I might have thought it, but no, I probably too much of what's the term that don't want to give someone a negative impression of myself just to be like, no, I'm not going to touch that.
I'd go with professional.
Yeah.
Brandon Antinopoulos of Forward RX is my guest. Explain what cost plus pricing is, because that's what you do, and I find that wonderful and fascinating, and sadly not many people do it.
Yeah, sure. So what I discovered is that, and I always equate it to when you talk about healthcare prices and with prescription drugs, there's what it actually costs, and then there's what I equate to, with car shopping is the MSRP, manufacturer suggested retail price. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to generic medications in the U.S., the MSRP for generic meds are nowhere near even close to what the actual cost of the medications are. Yet sometimes people's copays are based off of this industry price. Even their coinsurance is based off the industry price. So what we decided to do is, seeing that there are times where this model of status quo pharmacy and insurance coverage is ripping people off. It's better
I like the bluntness of that.
Yeah, it can save people a lot of money, and it's works better out for us that we're able to keep our costs low. Of just saying, hey, here's the cost. Here's my cost to get it from my wholesaler. And we just mark it up, a simple 5% markup on top of what the cost is, plus a $10 to cover our labor and our overhead to dispense the medication, and we get to a price, and that's it. And so we're actually able to post all of our prices online, completely transparent.
Very appreciative are people when you talk to them. In addition to saving buku bucks, the transparency and the business model being out front.
Yeah. Yep. And so I think you're going to see more of that in healthcare. There's certainly a push to bring transparency, not just in pharmacy and prescription drugs, but even in like hospital prices. Because this was something that I saw firsthand. I had insurance through my employer. My employer was paying $18,000 a year in insurance premiums for me and my family of four. And even on top of that, I was paying $4,000 or $5,000 in premiums also. I think now the average is $25,000 a year in premiums to cover a family of four. And with that, it's a high deductible health plan. So you're paying
If you make 50 grand, you're paying half of that, and then that $5,000 deductible that smacks you in the back of the head, you probably ain't got in your pocket.
Yeah, and you're paying full price of until that deductible kicks in. But even after the deductible, you got to spend $4,000 or $5,000 to get through to deductible to where coverage starts to happen. And what I noticed was that whenever and this was something that the Trump administration started first, and then the Biden administration continued. It was hospital pricing transparency. So hospitals had to post their prices, or if they didn't post their prices, it had to be very easy for you to call and say, "Hey, I got to get this procedure done. What's the price?" And so in my situation, high deductible health plan through my work insurance. My price with my insurance was always much, much higher than if I were just to go in and say, I don't have insurance, what's the cash price? So,
really?
Yeah.
It's just like buying a truck. If you walk in with cash, it's probably going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And part of that is because the Medicare and Medicaid does not reimburse for services very, very well. So there's not a lot of money to be made for the hospitals and the providers on that. And so what the health system tries to do is to say, like, hey, I know we're beating you up on profit over here, but we'll make it up for you and allow you to charge much higher rates for this population of people. So it's kind of like that group of people's kind of subsidizing the losses from the other side. So anyways, what we decided to do is we're not going to play that game. Whatever it costs me, I do a simple markup. By not signing or having insurance contracts, I'm not subject to gag clauses in those contracts that say that I can't share this information with you.
You've talked about that more than once, and most people have no idea that exists, that there's some things, if you're not doing it your way and you sign a contract with, what is it, a pill company?
With a pharmacy benefit manager, or a PBM, and they're the
middleman.
Yeah, they're the middleman working on behalf of the insurance company to, and again, just peel back another layer.
Yeah,
80% of all the prescriptions that are dispensed are go through 3 PBMs.
3:
CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, and Optum. And they're all owned by insurance companies. So CVS Caremark's owned by Aetna, Express Scripts is now owned by Cigna, and Optum's owned by United Healthcare. And so even though a lot in our industry point to this one particular middleman, the reality is it's all the middlemen in between.
How you said earlier that you're optimistic that your model, it's going to grow in the industry.
Yeah.
Where does that optimism come from? Because it sounds like you're swimming uphill against a lot of people with hands in their pockets.
Yeah. So we're seeing more pharmacies like mine start to open. And I certainly wasn't the first. I'm kind of riding on the successes of others. Actually, one of the first pharmacies to do this is Blueberry Pharmacy. They're in Westview, just outside of Pittsburgh. Actually, this is their 5-year anniversary. Talk about where were you when COVID happened. So they actually opened their pharmacy
on pandemic day
that week. So they opened the doors on day 1. The next day they were told, hey, everything's shut down.
Good luck. Wow.
And aside from being told you're nuts for opening a pharmacy that's not gonna take insurance.
Yeah. Well, but why would you say you're nuts? Just the industry looked at it as, this is how it's done. You doing it different. It's crazy.
Yeah, we've been. I think there's this thought that our population's been led to believe that the only way you can access affordable prices for healthcare is if you have insurance, and if you don't have insurance, you're not going to get good care. And what he realized after seeing 2 pharmacies he worked at go out of business because of participating in the system in which we have, he just said, you know what, I think I could save a lot of people money. Not everybody,
right,
but there's a good chunk of people that I can save them money and be fair and transparent and set my prices so that I can stay in business. And at the same time, I think the pharmacies and the businesses that do really well with the way that healthcare is, even though that it comes with a lot of headaches, they're still making money, So that's why, even for some of the doubters within our industry, whenever Blueberry Pharmacy opened, they were like, well, how are you going to make money? Well, how are you going to make money? How are you going to make money? But here he is 5 years later.
Survived COVID and making money.
And fully sustainable. And also I applaud them because they're helping other pharmacists like me. They helped me with some guidance to get Forward RX launch, and they're helping other pharmacists across the country start their own pharmacies.
What was the pushback like? They went through it. You went through it. What was the pushback like? Was it threatening phone calls late at night, or you drive by pharmacies and they just shake their head, tisk, tisk, tisk?
No, but you do start to see examples of where health systems, insurance companies, when you're starting to save people money, one person's savings is another person's lost profit.
True.
And start to put into things to where those prescriptions that pharmacies like ours would routinely fill, and we're talking like generic medications that are considered specialty medications because they treat disease states like MS or cancer, hepatitis C, and HIV, where they're billed to the government, they're billed to the employer, or the patient has to pay thousands of dollars out of pocket for drugs that cost less than $100. And so we've seen some things where they start to try to make it harder and harder for us to fill those prescriptions, even if the patients want those prescriptions to come to us, so that they don't lose out on.
We don't want to. No, not all of the eggs are for sale.
Yeah.
Just some of them. Tell people where Forward RX is. I got more questions afterwards. We're going to talk compounding and we're going to talk blood thinners. But Brandon Antinopoulos is my guest, and he's the pharmacist at Forward RX that is in New Brighton.
Yep, 809 3rd Avenue in New Brighton. So we're right on the main street of New Brighton, actually right next to the Rite Aid in town.
That's ironic.
Yeah, actually, I know Jason, the pharmacist that's there. He's been there for a while. We have pretty good relationships, so that's we try to help each other out whenever we can. But 724-246-6257, or you can go to our website fwdrx.com, learn more about us, and check out prices for your medications.
I'm not medicated. Can you believe that? What would you suggest for me? Maybe can I come in and just browse?
Oh, you can come hang out. Yeah, come and hang out. You just sit there and we can BS all day for sure.
I'm going to tell you a story that I can't tell you on air. We'll do it during news. Hang on.
The 45th Annual Beaver County Maple Syrup and Music Festival is back and better than ever. It's all happening on Saturday and Sunday, April the 12th and 13th at the Lodge in Brady's Run Park, just off Route 51 in Brayton Township. While the star of the show is scrumptious Pennsylvania maple syrup drizzled over all-you-can-eat homemade pancakes, there will also be live music with numerous crafters and vendors. Tickets, including pancakes and sausage, are just $15 for adults, $10 for kids under 12, and seniors and military, along with first responders, are just $12. There will also be Pennsylvania pure 100% maple syrup for sale, along with buckwheat and cornmeal flour. The 45th Annual Beaver County Maple Syrup Festival is being presented by Push Beaver County. Make sure you plan to come out to the 45th Annual Maple Syrup Festival from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, April the 12th and 13th at the Lodge in Brady's Run Park. Check out the festival Facebook page for a schedule of events.
Here we go.
Tune in to WBVP and 99.3 FM the second Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. for a Rappin' with the Reps. The special forum with your Beaver County State legislators is hosted by Eddie Crow and can also be seen on Facebook Live. You'll also have your chance to phone in and ask questions or give the legislators your opinion. That's Rappin' with the Reps every second Thursday here on Beaver County Radio.
If you own a company or a small business, you might have considered advertising on radio. It's smart because radio is still the most far-reaching media outlet today. WBVP and WMBA can get you results. Get more information at beavercountyradio.com.
your home for everything in Beaver County. 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP, coming to you live from the all-new Fry Transportation Studios.
Beaver County Radio's news source. 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP, and beavercountyradio.com. Here's Noah Haswell.
Good morning on this Tuesday, March 11th of 2025. We will have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after we take this look at news. The New Brighton School District discussed roof leaks at their meeting Monday. Here's Beaver County Radio's Curtis Walsh with more.
Beaver County Radio asked the New Brighton School Board Monday at their meeting about a recent Facebook post that circulated showing multiple leaks in the locker area of the high school. Superintendent Dr. Joseph Greeno relayed that the district contacted roofers immediately after realizing there was an issue and also notified parents with an email. The leak started during the harsh winter weather last month. Greeno says the roof is still under warranty and work is set to take place once the roofers determine weather conditions are appropriate to do so. Currently, ceiling tiles have been removed in the bad spots and buckets are being used to catch the leaks. Also at the meeting, the district approved initial readings for policy changes regarding discrimination and harassment, as well as pregnant parenting and married students. The changes are being made to ensure that the district complies with recent mandates made by the White House. From New Brighton, this is Curtis Walsh reporting for Beaver County Radio News.
Pennsylvania State Police in Beaver report that a man from West Mifflin was charged after causing a single-vehicle crash in Hopewell Township on Sunday. At 2:39 p.m., 38-year-old Randall Knight was driving too fast on the left side of the Allegheny County line of I-376 West. Knight traveled off the road and hit a cable guide rail before stopping. Knight was given 3 citations and was charged for driving on roadways that were laned for traffic. Gas prices are 5 cents lower in western Pennsylvania this week at around $3.44 per gallon. That's according to AAA East Central's gas price report. The report states that at that week last year, the average price for gas in western Pennsylvania was about $3.63. The report also notes that the average price that you can expect for a gallon of unleaded gas here in Beaver County is about $3.60. Allegheny General Hospital hosted students from Avonworth High School on Monday to watch a cardiac procedure completed by an all-female surgical team. This was performed to honor International Women's Day, which was celebrated on Saturday, March 8th. The leader of the team was Dr. Candace Lee, and her team accomplished a coronary artery bypass graft procedure. The open heart surgery observation program at the hospital helped the students from Avonworth to work towards careers in medicine. Acting U.S. Attorney Troy Ravetti announced Monday that a man from McKeesport pleaded guilty to a charge of possessing a firearm unlawfully. 49-year-old Richard L. Edwards Jr. had numerous rounds of ammunition as well as 4 firearms in his house on August 9, 2024. According to Ravetti, Edwards will remain in custody, and the law provides for 15 years in jail, a fine of $250,000, or both. Edwards will be sentenced on July 8, 2025. 3 of the 5 family members injured in a single-engine plane crash in Pennsylvania after the pilot reported an open door on the aircraft were sent to a burn center for treatment. TV station WGAL in Lancaster identified the pilot as Matt White and the 4 passengers injured in Sunday's crash as his family members, citing his aviation company. The plane was White's personal plane. No one was killed and no one on the ground was hurt in the crash after the plane took off for Springfield, Ohio. Federal investigators had no immediate comment on a cause, and officials haven't released the victims' conditions or identities.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
Sunny and breezy today. We'll see a high near 67. Partly cloudy tonight. We'll drop down to a low around 35. Mostly sunny tomorrow. Look for a high near 62 and a low around 42. Sunshine on Thursday. We'll reach a high near 67 and a low around 46. And rounding out the work week with more sunshine on Friday, we'll see a high near 72 and a low around 56. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
That's a look at the news for now. I'm Noah Haswell on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Are you ready? It's time to find out what is on the mind of Eddie Crow. It's something to crow about on Beaver County Radio, 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP. Now, here's the host of the show, Eddie Crow.
Live from the Pride Transportation Group studio, I'm sitting in here. Brandon Antinopoulos of Forward RX is sitting in here, and we're talking about drugs, and we're talking about the scams. You won't say scam, but I'll say scam. Your business model, to me, illustrates it. In regular medicine, there's a lot of middlemen, and I don't mean to be sexist with that, but what you do, it's what you pay for the drug, and 5%, right?
Yep.
And a $10 charge.
Yep.
That's
how we get to our price.
People are loving it. There are pharmacies that are not pharmacies, but there are medical companies that aren't.
Yeah, we've cut out 4 middlemen within our.
4.
But within our, if I were to show you a diagram that shows all the middlemen, or like the entities just in pharmacy supply chain, so not even just healthcare in general, but pharmacies in general. There's, within our model, you still have the manufacturer sells it to the wholesaler. We buy it from the wholesaler, dispense it from the patient. Just by us not doing the insurance contracts, there's at least 4 middlemen that we've cut out. And every time you add someone in there, they got to get their cut. So that's,
well, yeah.
And there was actually Marty McCary. He's the I don't think he's gotten confirmed yet, but he was the one appointed for the commissioner of the FDA, John Hopkins, physician. He did some research and published a book about a couple years ago that found that for every dollar U.S. healthcare spends, or for every dollar that's spent in U.S. healthcare, 50% of it, or 50 cents, goes to a middleman for administration, fraud, waste, and abuse that has nothing to do with actually providing care. So the way I see it, we're cutting out 50% by just going direct.
Does that give you hope?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That other people and people potentially in positions of power recognize that it's mostly hooey? Yeah,
because it's not sustainable. Like there's no, and I think everyone realizes, with how much money the United States spends on healthcare versus the return on that. Mm-hmm. There are other countries, even not as well developed as us, that spend a third of what we do for healthcare that's just as good or better. And so I think everyone realizes that it's not sustainable. The challenge is you have all these players, the middlemen, the entities that are making money off the status quo. And nobody can seem to, it's like everyone wants to bring down the cost of healthcare, but nobody wants to give up their profit.
Right. I want it to be cheaper, just don't touch my wallet. Well, I'm going to go back. You said you're optimistic that there are more people looking at your business model. That's swimming uphill, like I said, because there are a lot of people that don't like your business model because they're getting money basically for hanging out.
Yeah.
All right.
One of the the other things where I've seen some positive signs, and even we've seen this recently within the past few weeks with the weight loss medications.
Does that stuff work? Because every commercial at night, Brandon, look, I stick myself in the belly. Now I'm a size 6.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And there's not many medications that have come out over the years that that work as well as that medication does.
What is that
for weight
medication?
Loss? So they're referred to as a class of GLP-1s. Or glucagon-like peptide ones. And so GLP-1 is a hormone that is responsible for, originally these medications were looked at a way to managing diabetes.
Okay.
And so
that makes sense.
And one of the effects that they had found whenever through this process is kind of like helping to curb your appetite, kind of making you feel fuller, making you
a
not
diet
wanna eat as
suppressant.
much. Yeah, and
What was the
sense.
they years ago? There was one you used to get over the counter. They were supposed to be like little chocolate blocks. It was a diet suppressant.
Yeah.
Is this a better version of that?
Yeah, so what they found is that it works for actual like weight loss also, because whenever they were using this medication before these newer agents were out, one of the first ones within that drug class was called Victoza. It was a once daily injection. The generic is liraglutide. It's still somewhat expensive, but certainly not as expensive as what these newer ones are.
What sets the price, the willingness to pay it?
So usually with the brand name medications, the price is set by a few different factors. So a manufacturer will decide, okay, here is they refer to it as the net price. The net price is what they're willing to take in themselves after they pay out rebates to the insurance companies to try to get their medications on formulary, because that's a challenge that they have. It's kind of like a pay-to-play kind of thing where they have to pay money to the insurance companies just so the insurance companies will put their medications on formulary. Because, again, they think if my medication is not on formulary,
it ain't getting prescribed.
Yeah. But that will increase what's called the list price, or that MSRP. And that ultimately is what we, the pharmacies, are paying our wholesalers, is based on that price. So these medications like Wegovy and Ozempic that are made by Novo Nordisk.
Oh, I see lots of those commercials.
Yeah, then there's Eli Lilly. Their version of the GLP-1 is Zepbound for weight loss, but the same medication is branded as Mounjaro for diabetes. And even the studies have shown that the Zepbound has a little bit more effective in weight loss compared to the Novo Nordisk product with the Zepbound. But our invoice cost, so if I were to buy that from my wholesaler for a 1 month supply for a patient.
All right, that's a daily?
These ones are weekly.
Okay,
so the new one, these newer
shot.
ones, yeah, these newer ones.
All right, so 4 shots.
Yeah, 4 shots is between $1,200 and $1,300.
Those better make me look so good. That's $300 a shot.
So part of that price is what the drug manufacturer pays to the insurance companies, Medicare, Medicaid, as the rebate. The rebates, this is where, transparency it would be a really good thing, is to just say, like, how much is the rebate? Like, what does it actually cost you? How much manufacturer are you actually making? And depending on the drug, it's assumed that anywhere between 50% and 70% of that list price is what's paid to the insurance company in a rebate. So these companies, Lilly and Novo, and we get a lot of questions about these, because this is one thing that for someone that doesn't have insurance that's covering the $1,200 or $1,300 price tag of them, we get a lot of calls about these, even though we don't really dispense them, because our price calculation on that is not an affordable price.
Right, you'd lose money.
Yeah. So what those manufacturers have started to do now, though, is that if you want to get it direct from the manufacturer with a prescription, you can now go onto either of their websites, and they work with a mail order pharmacy that'll dispense that, no insurance, cash only, depending on the dose, between $350 to $500. So
per dose
for that month's supply.
Oh, okay. So
this just shows you how
convoluted
pharmacies in the status quo system have to pay $1,200 or $1,300 for that medication, but someone who wants to bypass the insurance system, it's advantageous for the manufacturer just to dispense it to them directly, at a much lower price because that's the rebate spread.
Do the insurance companies feel like the manufacturers are cutting them off at the knees by providing that opportunity?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I this is all just hearsay, but I like Mark Cuban. He started a couple years ago. He's got an online version of what we're doing. Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs, and he's even tried to, and he's talked about this in interviews, to go to the manufacturers and just say like, hey, why don't you just sell your brand name products? We'll put it on available through our pharmacy website directly. You guys can cut out the insurance companies, not have to deal with all this rebate stuff, and we can do it directly. And he said that there's interest from the manufacturers to do that, but they're worried about the pushback from the insurance companies by not playing the game.
Upsetting the apple cart.
Yeah, but there have been some smaller brand name manufacturers. One that comes to mind is the manufacturer of Brenzavi. This is a diabetes medication that's similar to what some folks might know as Farxiga or Jardiance.
Okay.
Again, those two, Farxiga and Jardiance, if I were to order those from my wholesaler, they're between $500 to $600 a month is their invoice cost. What this manufacturer, the Brenzavi, did say, we're not going to do this, try to get it on formulary. We're just going to
put it out there.
It's $50 is our cost.
It just seems, I say convoluted, but that's by design.
Yeah, a lot of money's being made. So, and again, that's what with our model, we just decided. Unfortunately, things have gotten so bad that a model like ours could exist. Otherwise, in a normal world, you wouldn't need a pharmacy like ours. You could just go into any pharmacy, and they could just,
like most anywhere else on the planet,
charge you a reasonable price regardless of it's insurance or not insurance.
Brandon Antinopoulos with Forward RX is my guest. He comes by and we talk about drugs once a month.
These are ones that are usually custom made for a specific patient. Maybe there is not even if there's a medication or an ingredient that's commercially available, maybe it's not available in a specific strength or specific dosage form that is needed for you.
You got to mix your own sometimes.
Yeah. So It's kind of like getting back to what pharmacy was, back in the mid to early 1900s. You gotta, you went to your doctor, they put on there the prescription, which really was like a recipe. You take it to your pharmacist. Pharmacist grabs the ingredients off the shelf. The different
glass bottles and a mortar and pestle, and off he went.
So that is what is now considered compounding.
Okay.
Now, one of the compounding pharmacies are not allowed to compound medications that are commercially available. So, like, they're patent protected. So, in the case of these weight loss medications, they couldn't do that unless if a commercially available product is deemed on shortage, hard to access.
Who decides that?
The FDA.
Okay.
So the FDA maintains a shortage list of medications that are on shortage. If a commercially available medication is on shortage, they deem it okay for compounders to be able to, if they can access the active ingredient and compound it, they can do that. Okay. And there is a lot of rules and regulations around compounding, especially now. A couple years ago, there was a bad actor in New York that was compounding sterile medications and not doing it correctly. And so some people got infections and lost their eyesight. It was like a steroid drop for the eye.
All right.
And because of that, the regulations around compounding are a lot stricter.
Is there more money to be made in compounding? There's more process to it.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not commercial. Usually these medications are already not covered by insurance. There may be some compounds that are covered by insurance. And then also, because it is already traditionally a cash-based business, compounding pharmacies have the ability to set their markup. But I have seen where 7 times the cost could be the markup. depending on how long it takes to make that medication could dictate what the price is. If it only takes 15 minutes to mix it up, but if you have, 2 or 3 people that are working for an hour or two, that can increase the price of it. But certainly it is something that gets heralded within pharmacies saying like, hey, if you want more profitable lines of business, go into compounding, no insurance, and, cash only. So there is money to be made. But even in how this ties back into the weight loss medications, the Ozempics, the Mounjaros, Zepbounds, Wegovy's, for the past few years, they've been on the FDA's shortage list because they worked really well. And
that meant compounding pharmacies could lend a hand with putting it together.
Yep. They worked really well. There was big consumer patient demand for them. Manufacturers weren't able to make enough of the supply. And so compounding pharmacies were now able to compound. And actually, we saw these commercials in the Super Bowl. Companies like Hims and Hers and Roe.
Yes.
They weren't actually selling the brand manufacturer products. It was their own compounded version. So they spent millions of dollars on marketing this. Well, now the FDA has stepped in and say there is no more shortage anymore. Compounding pharmacies, you are no longer allowed to make these. So
there went a cash flow.
Yeah. So if you are someone who is getting these compounded versions of these weight loss medications, I would tell you just to check with your pharmacy that you're getting them from. If the pharmacy tells you that, yes, we can only make this or dispense it up until this period, after that, we won't be able to make the compound for you. That's at least you'll know you have a good compounding pharmacy. If you call them and say like, nope, we're still going to make it, no problem. Unfortunately, they're breaking the law.
Breaking the law. Oh, okay. What should I ask you about that I didn't? Because I got plenty more questions. I want to make sure we get through everything. Is that the number one requested prescription right now? The I'll give myself a shot and avoid having to work out and lose weight shot?
Yeah. Yep. I would say that's the one we get the biggest question about.
Okay.
And that seems to be the one that's talked a lot about in the news because even health plans have reported this past week like hundreds of millions of dollars losses, and they all point to those medications as being one of the driving culprits of that. The other one we get a lot of questions about is alternatives to blood thinner medications, Eliquis and Xarelto.
Who needs blood thinner? What a typical patient? Because I honestly don't know.
Yeah, so a couple different cases where someone would need to be on a blood thinner, and it could be because they have either issue with their heart, where the heart's not able to pump the blood as effectively.
So thinning it out helps.
Yeah, or they may have irregular heart rates or arrhythmia or dysrhythmia. And because when that happens, blood kind of sits still. And when blood sits still, increases the risk of clots, and clots that end up
in bad places.
Yeah, it can do a lot of damage like stroke in the lungs, a pulmonary embolism, or even getting down in the legs, which they call a DVT, can cause a clot elsewhere. So when clots happen, problems happen. So people at risk of having clots, they would recommend being on a blood thinner. For years and years and years, Coumadin was the brand name.
I remember that
or
one.
Warfarin's a generic. Very inexpensive medication, high risk of bleeding, and it required a lot of blood testing. So, if you were just starting out, you would have to go to a lab or go to the hospital, get what's called your INR checked. Essentially, it was measuring the rate of which your blood would clot or not clot.
Okay.
And if medications needed adjusted, you would have to have this test done routinely. About 10 or 15 years ago, a class of these blood thinners came out called DOACs, or direct oral anticoagulants. Just as effective as warfarin, similar, but some of them are similar or less risk of major bleeding than what warfarin was, but did not require the routine testing. So most everyone that has to be on a blood thinner has been moved to one of those. When the original ones were Pradaxa, Xarelto, and Eliquis. But Pradaxa has a generic available that's been out for about a year now, and now the price has come down from that a lot to where our regular price on the generic Pradaxa is of just as much as what someone's copay could be on Xarelto or Eliquis.
Brandon, the scariest part about our conversation today is the power of advertising, because every drug that you named, I remember a commercial for it.
Oh, yeah. And the U.S. is the only one that allows advertising. Other countries, that could be another thing that's driving up the cost of brand name drugs. But yeah, U.S. is the only one that allows advertising. Brandon
Antinopoulos has been my guest. Tell people how they can come see you, please, because they need to.
Yeah, sure. So, yep, we are on the main street of New Brighton, 809 3rd Avenue in New Brighton, right next to the Rite Aid. We're open 9 to 6 Monday through Friday and 9 to 1 on Saturdays. You can give us a call, 724-246-6257, or check us out on the website, fwdrx.com.
Is it the greatest job ever or the worst job to be the person that sits in the room and makes up all these really cool, funky sounding names for all of these pills?
They have some pretty good ones. Even like, Dabigatran is the one for
sounds like
the
a
generic
superhero,
Pradaxa,
yeah,
or a transformer. Yeah. They're Zofran for nausea, on Dancitron. Like I remember,
right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! I knew every drug you named. Well, here's some advertising. Clearly, advertising works.
Beaver County Radio and the Pennsylvania Hot Rod Company, along with Falcone's